one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom! That's exactly it.
Do that. Let's do that.
Woohoo! Oh, look at this. You got a crowd going? I tell you.
Let's go.
It never ends with the new surprises with Chris Stone.
I love to surprise you, Dan.
You know what? I wake up in the morning on Wednesday mornings. For me, it's best day of the week. You know, I get to see Chris Stone. I know I'm going to learn something new. My daughter used to go to this thing on for church on Sunday afternoons from like 4 to 7. It was like 2,000 kids between 13 and 17. 2,000, just all there doing all whatever they do, church stuff. But they printed out these shirts, best day of the week. And I thought it was cool because, like Sunday, how could they make Sunday the best day of the week? But That's only because they didn't know Chris Stone and come on Dan Jourdan Live.
That's right. DJ Live every Wednesday, baby. Right in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. You can't forget it.
So have a good time.
And speaking of not forgetting it, don't be a chicken, ladies and gentlemen. We're live on all the tubes. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. We're gonna pack it in something you probably you're not even aware of because this is Dan Jourdan Live. So don't be a chicken. Let us know where you're joining us from. We've got a great guest back in the green room, drinking all the orange juice and eating all the cookies and all the M&Ms that Dan has provided. Dan, how have you been lately?
Only green M&Ms. Well, you know what? I have been today. I woke up in an exceptionally optimistic state of mind. And I thought to myself, why? And it's because I have this kind of natural tendency towards being a contrarian, and because it's always, if everybody's facing south, there's something happening north that you need to go. So the masses are always wrong. I mean, every time you would think you would learn. And so it gets to the point. I actually wrote about this in LinkedIn. Like I learned this a long time ago. The day you know that the real estate market is going to flip is when your brother-in-law comes to you and says, hey, man, we should start flipping houses. When it reaches the point where your brother-in-law comes out, hey, there's money in this. That's the top of the market. It's time to get out. Okay. And so right now, there's just like this general kind of, I don't want to use the M word that Jimmy Carter used a million years ago, but there's like a slight like depression in the air. People are just generally not feeling. Oh, look, Jerry Lopez used some juice. And so I realized, oh my gosh, if everybody's like that, what an opportunity. Yeah, because they're craving some fresh ideas. And that's why I was excited today because of our guest. He has a book. Check this out. You may not know this, Chris Stone, because you pay no attention and you don't prepare for our guests I do. And he actually wrote a book, Snake Oil, which just is the greatest thing ever, because, you got to, if you're going to be a salesman, if you're going to be a marketer, embrace it. Just embrace the idea that people think that you're a skeevy, slimy mother. And you just got to overcome that by being the exact opposite. So embrace it and be the exact opposite. So with that, are you going to introduce our guest here? Nobody can wait any longer. The greatness is about to happen. Please help me welcome my new friend, Dan Russell.
Woo! Thank you for having me here, guys. I'm excited.
Look at that. Already he couldn't get the arms in the air before. It's
I did it with you guys when you started. I was there. I was with you.
There you go.
I can't do it before either, Dan. That I've got I only have
right.
2 arms.
You have the whole crowd.
I did a big upper body workout this morning, so that hurts. That's an investment.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you have one striking. We have a policy: never have somebody younger and better looking than us on the show.
I'm sorry, Dan. It was great meeting you, but we'll have to let you go.
I know.
I'm sorry. Not sorry.
The challenge. Now, so before we get into the big stuff with your snake oil thing, so where are you hiding out these days?
I live in Vero Beach, Florida, with my wife and our little white dog. And we found this place a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, and fell in love with it. Had a couple of friends that invited us out here, and we decided we're going to stay.
Well, which one did you have first, the wife or the little white dog?
Both. I inherited the dog.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what
she's had the dog for 13 years, and I met her 5 years ago. So
wow,
it's a package deal.
13 years though, that's a challenge because you're going to have to deal with it's one of the greatest lessons when you have kids is to have a pet, because I mean, if your pet dies, it's a good way to ease them into kind of understanding about stuff. Yep. So
good practice for the big talk.
Yeah, that's right. The sacrificial puppy, we called it. I'm just kidding. We didn't really did. So talk to me. You're the furthest thing from a snake oil looking type of dude. Why did you name it that? And why do you consider that people think about that?
I actually had the name of the book down before I even wrote the book. And I did it because I chose that title because it's a bit of a validation and an admission of guilt, or, an admission that marketers in general aren't trusted, which is statistically true. The Gallup released a poll in, I think, 2019 that showed it ranked professions by the level of trust that consumers had in them. And marketers were at third from the bottom, and the only professions that beat marketers out were car salesmen and members of Congress.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So it's sort of the elephant in the room, and by calling it out, we couldn't have an honest conversation.
That's exactly right. Well, so then, aside from, and I'm sick of conversations. People say we need to talk about stuff, but I'm looking for solutions. So, and people are looking to you, Dan Russell, for solutions, which is probably available in your book, available on Amazon. But if you had to do one thing, so I have an opinion on this, but maybe you could tell me. So how does one overcome that? How does somebody become trusted when the initial perception is that you're untrustworthy?
Well, you deliver value, you get results. And if anybody here who's in business or owns a business or is a business leader, you've probably heard from marketers and marketing gurus over the years, and you can tell the difference between the ones that know what they're talking about and the ones that are just spewing nonsense.
Well, how?
And there are a lot of them.
How can you tell the difference?
Well, really I talk a lot about, how to hire a marketer, both in my book and in my talks and so on. And one of the best ways to do it is to do your background checks and check references. Like if you're hiring somebody, but if you're following them on social media or something like that, you want to look for stuff that makes sense, that's accessible, and that just, doesn't overwhelm you, doesn't strike you as being misleading or bait and switchy or anything like that. I mean, it's at its heart, marketing is human connection. It's the art of establishing trust and talking to people like they're people, not hyping things up, not doing anything that's going to turn them away or, give them a weird feeling in the pit of their stomach, but having a real conversation and saying, hey, here's something that you might not have thought of, or hey, here's something that has worked and it might work for you. And marketing is a unique field in that what works for one person might not work for another person. And you have to, like, that as the expert, as the marketing expert, acknowledge that and say, hey, you have 100,000 things that you could pay attention to, and this might be one of those things that you should focus on, but it also
Oh,
might not. And in my conversations with past clients, when I was running my agency, with startup founders, now it's all about figuring out what is right for you, and taking that time and space and giving people that permission to look inside of themselves, say, what kind of content do I want to produce that's going to provide the most value, is a an interim period of time that has to exist before you start executing, that will set the foundation for your entire reputation and for the value that you're providing.
that is such magic. And I'm going to dig a little deeper, but I want people to feel that same connection that you're talking. So this is not a critique or anything, but look at the camera, not at your face. And that way we can see when you're talking. Yeah, it's just
Thank you.
yeah, but because it'll help, because you're saying such magic, and I want to really relate to it. So, when you're saying that you're basically saying talk about things that they're interested in, and so then they'll be continued to go forward, and then you can make the sell to get trustworthy. But what about the business owner that's just getting started? Like, you obviously have the credibility from past clients and performance that you could utilize. Somebody who's starting out fresh, or maybe starting in a new career, help them. How does that person get off the schneid and get the first account? How do you like that little get off the schneid reference, circa 1964 in the Bowery?
Well, I think the most important thing, if you're really just getting started, let's say that you came up with a new business idea, and you want to get it off the ground, or you want to validate it at the very least, and see if people are willing to pay money for this thing that you're doing, or even listen to what you're saying. The first thing that I like to have people go through is what I call the campaign car wash, because there's multiple steps to it, and there's sort of different phases. And one of the elements of that campaign car wash is figuring out what type of content you want to create. And that is an introspective process. You don't need an expert to tell you that. One of the elements of that, the campaign style, is the medium that you're choosing to use. And there are 4 different mediums. So there's written, there's auditory, multimedia, and experiential. Experiential is all in person, but the other 3 can happen digitally. Twitter, for example, is a primarily written medium. Books are a written medium. Podcasts are auditory. Radio is auditory. And then multimedia is like what we're doing right now. So you have to decide for yourself, what feels great for you. Like, I really like writing things. And it's the reason I wrote a book. It's the reason that I now focus on Twitter. I had to get to the point where I said, I don't really care if everybody's on Instagram. I know that the people I want to talk to are also on Twitter, and I enjoy Twitter more. That gives me energy. And by focusing on those channels that give you energy and allow you to engage with people, and it feels natural, that's the first step to starting to create content. And Gary Vaynerchuk is famous for saying, like, every company is now a media company creating content. Like, that is one of the bedrocks of, it's what you guys are doing right now with me. It's what anybody who's running a business does. You have to feel it and be in the environment that gives you that energy. And so if you're just getting started and you're trying to figure out, like, I don't know who to follow in the marketing world, I don't know, what topics I even need to be aware of, start looking for the people who have that energy and who are engaged and who care and who aren't just, like, auto posting, across every platform at the same time, and just phoning it in. Look for that energy. That's the most fundamental thing I would recommend if somebody's just getting started.
Speaking of energy, you're on the Sales Energizer
That's
show.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
When you're working with clients, though, sometimes you'll find out that even if they have an energy for a particular type of medium, let's just say podcasting or the blogging, for instance, and they really like to podcast and they really like to blog, but they find out that their customer profile, their avatar, the person that they're talking to, is actually super active on TikTok, even though they just can't stand TikTok. Like, how does that conversation go?
I would say that once you get comfortable in the platform that you get that energy from, the other platforms, the other channels can come naturally from that. One of the hardest parts about starting up a brand on social media is coming up with what to say, what to share, what content to create. There's something that I teach called the big idea. And the big idea is, if the simplest way of describing it is, if companies that have famous taglines like Nike's "Just Do It," North Face is "Never Stop Exploring." Those are ideas that every other piece of content centers around. It's like an atom. That's the nucleus of an atom, and the electrons are your. Sorry to get super nerdy here, but I'm a science nerd. The electrons are your pieces of content. And as you start to get into the flow of creating content on the platforms that you're most comfortable with, that give you that energy, you'll find that when you move over to TikTok, for example, and you don't really like TikTok, you can start pulling from those platforms that you have been creating on. And you find that content wall, or like the equivalent of writer's block for TikTok, is not as intimidating, and it's more easily surmountable. So you know what to say. All you have to do is now get comfortable with being in front of the camera.
Do people still get writer's block? I mean, do you get writer's block?
Oh, sure. I had it while I was writing the book a couple of times. There would be periods of 2 weeks where I just I didn't really know what direction to push it, or I was looking for the right story or whatever. Even on social media, there are days where I'm like, I don't really like what's going to be most valuable for people that I believe is exciting. So yeah, that's a totally natural part of the process. I think if you ask anybody who's writing or even creating video content, it's the same thing. It's the creative process. And best thing I can say to get over that is to just give yourself space. Like one of the rarest moments, especially in the marketing world, is somebody just sitting down in front of a blank piece of paper and writing down idea after idea after idea and trying to figure out what's at the heart of what they want to say. And once you identify that, then you can start identifying stories and examples and research reports even and stuff that fuels that big idea, that always feeds it.
That's interesting, because I do it opposite. I start with the story. I start with an experience, and I keep living through that experience, and I say, what lessons are in here that I could share? But
that's the creative process, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
When I get into that frame of mind, and I've kept an idea list. It's 250 pages long of just bullet points of just ideas. Gosh, you read through them. Some of them are so bad. It's like, what kind of freak thinks of this stuff? You read it and you're like, I don't even know what that means. But at the time, it was like important.
Right, like the most insightful thing ever. And now you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah,
it's like that Seinfeld episode where Jerry woke up in the middle of the night with a joke in his head, and he was like, oh, and he just kind of wrote it down on this pad next to him. And then he woke up in the morning and he was like, trying to ask his friends, like, what does this say?
Right.
I knew it was funny when I wrote it down. Now,
and then I'm like somewhat dyslexic, and I want to write it before I forget it. And so I'll just write the punchline of the joke, and then I read back. I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. I don't know what the heck
you can't reverse engineer it.
But yeah, so Jackie says, writer's block. Tell me about it. I definitely face that regularly. Giving yourself space. So do you? Because I go on walks. Like, when you talk about space, are you talking about literal space, or just like, leave me alone for a minute and
mental space? Just the psychological space where you don't have distractions or notifications coming in on your phone or meetings to take. It's just a breath that you can take that opens up your mind. You're not thinking about anything else, and you slow things down. That is the best solution that I've come up with personally. And everybody else, as you just pointed out, has their own creative process, but that's always what I go back to.
Yeah, turning off all the feeds and the algorithms and all of those things that will, get you to think like you should be doing these things. You should
Right.
be getting followers and subscribers and things like that on these platforms you probably have no business being on. You should be focusing on where where you can be successful, as opposed to these sort of, likes and, all of these things that and I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of people have that misconception when they say, oh, so-and-so has X million followers on TikTok and so many followers on this, that, or the other. It's just sort of like, are we chasing the subscribers, or are we chasing the checks?
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge value in shutting everything off and really, laser focusing on what you can do. And you got to carve out real estate for yourself as a business, right? So you got to have presence everywhere from a search engine optimization sort of standpoint. But like, where, like, to your point, where are you getting the most energy from? Where can you be the expert on? Where can you start doing what you're doing, and then start, maybe, okay, now I'm going to pull in my Instagram strategy and kind of figure out how that works, sort of, so to speak. Is that sort of what you teach?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's coming up with that big idea, that nucleus, and only those things can only come from within. Nobody's going to tell you what your next big idea is. And to look outwardly for that, you can get inspiration for sure, reading a good book, watching a movie, whatever that process is. But at the end of the day, that creative spark comes from you doing your thing and using your own brain synapses to combine two ideas and create something new. That space is incredibly important and valuable.
He's a neuroscience marketer, so don't mess with him, Chris Stone.
I know.
Sometimes you can tell right away if you got a good guest. We got something good going on here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Mark Fonseca, Dress a Man. What's a good length of time for an explainer video podcast? And also, what's a good length for a post or article to keep your audience's attention?
I like to keep explainer videos to a couple of minutes, probably under 5, get the idea and value proposition across. In terms of article length, that is really dependent upon what you're trying to say. Seth Godin has a blog post every single day, and some of them are really short, like under 200 words. And then there's blogs like Wait But Why from Tim Urban that are thousands and thousands of words long. And they both get high levels of engagement. They both build high levels of loyalty with the audience. It just depends on what you're trying to say. And if you know what you're trying to say, take the time. This is what I do. Take the time to write or record the thing that you're trying to say. And when you get to the point where you feel, you know what, this feels right, then send it to people for feedback, go through the editing process. But that's the best advice I can give in terms of at least the written medium, by having, that organic flow of creation and of providing value.
Well, good. And all these points are available, I imagine, in your book, Snake Oil.
They are.
Oil
Yep.
is, okay.
Yeah, I go through a whole process of creating what I call the marketing operating system, and the first piece of that is coming up with a big idea. And there's an exercise called the Big Idea Brainstorm, has different prompts. It's actually really fun once you have a little bit of structure around it and you can start answering questions.
Yeah, it is fun. Now, I'm from the old school marketing of long form writing, Frank Kern, Dan Kennedy,
direct response,
direct response, which is basically what video is too. You have a big headline and then a sub headline and then your product there, and if done well, a book. Dan Kennedy talks about that. All his books are basically long form sales letters. I mean,
They really are. I love Frank's stuff because he's the epitome of a marketer who walks the talk and is honest, and is, what I love is that he's upfront about the fact that he's going to sell you on something. But by the point that you get to line in his copy, you don't care because he's already provided value. He's been honest and transparent.
Yeah, and he's a nice guy, and and you, by the way, are a monster. Also, I can tell right away just by the way you speak. Earlier, you were talking about, hey, slow it down, and you actually physically slowed your speech down. I mean, you're as good as they get with the psychological stuff in there. Very good.
Thank you.
I mean, it's awesome.
It's witchcraft.
Extremely likable. But what we were taught to create this sales is you go and do your sales call how you would, and you write the whole thing down. And that's the genesis of your marketing pieces. You know, exactly how you would talk. Like, and the reason why Frank is so good, and Frank Kern, for those of you who don't know, look him up. I don't have to tell you anything about him because you'll find out in the first 2 seconds as soon as you look at Frank.
Yeah.
But he's the same person on paper, on a blog, on video, in person, all along. And you originally spoke, you didn't say it on camera, but I'm a big proponent of just total and upfront, abject honesty in all that you do.
And it makes it easier too, right? It makes it easier to create content when you're being yourself. 10 years ago, like I was kind of going through the rounds of early personal branding, like what should I get on and say? And I was like so uptight, like, you know, oh, well, I have to blow my audience's minds every time I create something. No, that's only going to impede that progress. It makes the space smaller. It shrinks that breadth. And over time, like once you get comfortable and confident in what you're doing, like you can just sit back a little bit and say, you know, open up your camera and record a video or post a tweet and say, here's what's going through my head right now. And as long as you are pushing that through a filter of providing value, not knocking anybody down, not, you know, putting bad energy out there, but really like bringing a positive, you know, attitude towards whatever it is that you're an expert in, you're gonna connect with people.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, that being happy or being positive, I think that's your moral responsibility. Do whatever you want in your house and all that stuff, but if you're out in public, you're either making the place better, or you're making the place worse. You have no business making it worse.
Like this happens to me every so often. I'll see somebody on Instagram. It's usually Instagram. Who is like a self-proclaimed marketing guru, like, oh, I have an 8-figure this and a 7-figure this, and I've done all these things, and you know, buy my thing or course or sign up for my webinar. And I'll do some research on them. This happened a couple of days ago. There was a guy that I saw this super hypey video, you know, rah marketing, and then I go to his profile and he has like 60 followers on Twitter and no posts, no engagement. And he has 10,000 followers on Instagram, but can't get a like on his posts, which probably means that he bought a bunch of followers. And I write this like post about him, and I on Twitter put screenshots of him, like, this guy is like, you know, this is what I'm talking about when I talk about Snakewell. And I delete the post. I don't even post it. I just it's like writing an angry letter,
very
and then burning it up and ripping it up. Because like I know in my mind logically that that's the wrong energy to put out there.
Right. But
emotionally, I just needed to clear it out.
Well, you know, you're in good company. When after Abraham Lincoln was killed, they found a letter that he wrote to General McClellan, telling him all the terrible things that he did, and they cost the war, he cost many thousands of lives, and all that's. Never sent the letter, but he wrote it.
Exercise. Very therapeutic.
Yeah. So you're just like Abe Lincoln. That's
well, thanks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's on my good list.
That's a good again. I think just going back to something you said before that was very instructional to anybody out there who's looking to create content. You were talking about Gary Vaynerchuk, and I think he once said this, or maybe I read it somewhere else, but Gary Larson wrote The Far Side. You may be too young to know this comic strip, but it was very popular. Watch the magic that Chris Stone does as I'm talking. He's unbelievable. But so he's right. There were like stupid comic strips, but they were they were hilarious.
Mhm.
And he was very famous. He wrote all these books. And so I bought one of those books, and I look at it, and about a third of them were really funny. And the rest were just kind of throwaways. They weren't all that good, but we thought they were so awesome. And the gurus that you think are so awesome. But knowing that kind of helped me, because I do a video every morning. Like you said, stream of consciousness regarding sales and things that you need to get, going. And I do it every morning. And many times I don't know what I'm going to say, even as I'm pressing start.
Mm-hmm.
And just that little pressure, it's amazing what goes on in your head and how quickly takes all the pressure off. Some of them are crap, I
can't believe that.
And some of them are magic. So how do you work? Go ahead.
Seth Godin once said 50%, and for those listening, Seth Godin is once again like this well-known figure in the marketing world. Posts a blog every day. He's famous for posting his short form blogs. And he once said 50% of my articles, my blog posts, are below average. People come back and like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, how could you say that? You're the marketing, you're the guy. How could half of your posts be below average? And he explains it by saying, if I gave you what my average post was, what an average is it basically states that there's 50% of all the posts that are below that and 50% that are above it. And it's a good sort of mental reset when I hear that and I think about it, and I remind myself of that every so often, to think like we're all human beings creating, trying to create value for other people. And sometimes things are going to hit the mark and other times they're not. But the good news is that the good stuff, the above average stuff, is going to be the stuff that everybody sees, because that's what stuff that gets shared and gets promoted. And the same thing goes for companies. I mean, there's a lot of, bad, low quality content that goes out. And the good news is that that's just part of the big experiment, and it will fade away and it'll still be there, but nobody's really going to be paying as close attention to it as they will your great stuff.
Yeah. No one talks about the bad Beatles songs.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody talks about "Love Me Do" and Norwegian Wood,
for that from some Beatles fans out there.
And Dan, here you go.
Oh, there we go. So this is a typical Gary Larson type of comic. Who are we kidding, Luke? We know this is just going to be another standoff.
I don't even get it. Like, I don't.
I know.
I found one that had snake. I tried oil. I try to figure it. Like, if Gary Larson's,
Well, how could they?
I think the picture in the background is the funniest piece of that.
Oh yeah. The thing is, so the answer is they're snakes. They don't have arms. What are they going to do? How are they going to pull their holsters out there, Chris Stone?
Okay.
Okay. There
I got it. It's a way homer.
Yes.
I get it on the way home.
That's right. So, okay. So, I had something unbelievably poignant to conversation, but it's okay. It'll come back. Oh yeah, this is it. This is another one that I read 1,000 years ago. Everything you do today, you'll be embarrassed of 10 years from now. And so it doesn't matter. You're gonna hate it anyway.
And no one will remember.
Yeah,
but you.
Just throw it out.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. So, all right. So how does somebody use you and your brain to help their business? What's the program? I mean, we can't just get your snake oil book. What else can you give us?
Well, I have a newsletter called the Gold Pan Report. And in that newsletter, I filter through. I'm part of everybody else's newsletter, and I am an early adopter of all the technologies out there. And the idea behind the Gold Pan Report is that you don't have to, if you're a business leader, you're already busy and you're probably getting those emails and ads and all sorts of stuff. You don't know how to filter through it. You don't know what's legit. So I send out regular emails to people and tell them, here's what you need to pay attention to, and here's what you can ignore. Like, the idea is that, and the goal of the whole of the report is to be the one place that, good stuff will be shared and the bad stuff will all be filtered out, because I've spent enough time in this industry to know where the BS lies, basically.
You mean in marketing? In terms of
marketing, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Specifically B2B marketing, both services and technology and consultants and stuff like that. There's so much stuff floating around out there being broadcasted at people in business, people in sales, people in marketing, and it's overwhelming. And that was the whole premise of the snake oil concept in my book. So I want to help those business leaders like get that space back, basically, to be creative and to know, like, okay, this is the one thing I need to focus on. Like, I'm going to commit to this, and I don't have to worry about all the other things that are coming out, all the new social media platforms that are coming out. Like, I've focused on this thing. I know I have a strategy. I don't have to worry about jumping from one tactic to another. This shiny object syndrome has taken over the sales and marketing world, in my opinion, just based on everything that I see out there. And it pulls people from one thing to another, to another, to another. And you never end up finishing anything. And even if you do, that thing has way more complexity than it needs to.
Oh, so you're helping people, and just through the newsletter. So it's not, I'm not committed to some sort of program or course, or it's just, I'm going to get this wisdom from you on a regular basis. And now does it give me, this is what you should do, but does it tell me how to do it?
Yeah, there's basically application guides that come along with it. And I try to make sure that, I don't say something like, hey, there's this new thing called Twitter newsletters, and you should go check it out. Like, great, thanks.
Really? Is there something called Twitter newsletter?
Hey, there's this thing called Twitter newsletter. Here are the results that it's generating from people that I've researched, or people that even I know from real world experience. Here's the step-by-step process to using it if you believe that you check off these boxes and it aligns with your strategy.
Oh my gosh, why did you wait this long to tell me this? Okay, so now my questions, these are very straightforward questions. YouTube Shorts, do they work? Should I use them?
YouTube Shorts are great. Actually, that is a rising trend. And the reason that I like them is because it's easy. It's super easy to just, create a short video, upload it. You can, give it the right title and keywords and, tags and stuff like that. But that's a great high volume, high value form of content. I'm a big fan of that.
What is the value though? So
I'm in the zone now. Hold on one second, Chris Stone. I gotta get, so as far as I can see, the value is it's a quick way to get followers very fast. It's an easy way to get followers. More people.
Well, that's the value to you as the content creator.
Right. Yeah. So now I want to start making more of these. A couple of them I did. I got thousands of views, and then 15. And so
that's how they get you.
That's how they get you.
That's the YouTube algorithm is filled.
That's the dip that you have to survive. It's pure commitment at that point.
Okay, but on the YouTube video, so my regular videos I always put out, with the thumbnails, and I put it together with the title and all that stuff. But the shorts, should they get the same type of thing, or are they more kind of casual? Hey, here I am. Here's my idea for the day. Check this out.
Well, yeah, I think they should get the same attention in terms of the either, post-production editing process, if that's what you're asking. But in terms of the value that you're putting in the video, it's sort of like, think about it as if you were recording a TikTok video. You want it like it's condensed, like you're packing in value into those videos, because I think if it's a short and it takes, let's say it's a minute long, and it takes you 20 seconds to sort of get into it, then you've already lost a third of the time that you have available to deliver value. And as you know, having posted YouTube videos a lot, you gotta like get right into it and end it as soon as you've completed your thought.
30 seconds. But you're a fan of post-production on those too, because a lot of times they're just on the phone, blah, done.
You could do that too, as long as you know what you're saying. Like, you've got a lot of experience, so you could probably do that. Other people might prefer to cut things down if they pause or they mess up or something.
Okay, good. That was a good one. Chris Stone, I'm sorry. The floor is yours.
No, I completely forgot now. Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
No,
You said what's the value?
no, there's the value
those
question, but
viewers.
now I'm thinking about shorts and get right to it and everything. I think the reason why I believe, and it is my opinion, so people could take for what it's worth, shorts have been so popular with certain people is because I think people are trained as YouTubers who are doing YouTube and wanting to get AdSense, wanting to monetize, wanting to do it. They're taught that you need watch time. And so what happens is, you'll go and you'll search, how to replace the grout in my shower, or, how to, fix my engine or whatever, because that's a lot of people are doing that. You're getting teased for minutes and minutes and minutes. And you're like, would you just tell me what I need to know? Because you're just trying to get my watch time, and half the time it works, but you're not, you'll never watch another video from that person again. Right.
Yeah.
But on shorts, it's like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. And you're like, whew, wow, that was easy. And so maybe you're subscribing, then you're going to go into the longer watch time thing because you've gained a little trust. You're
making a really good point. I just saw a video from somebody the other day saying that and this was just from them saying it. This is what isn't backed by anything, but they said that TikTok's becoming the new Google, where people search for things, solutions for things. And they said, oh, well, if I want to learn how to create this dish in my kitchen, then I can learn how to do it in 30 seconds versus watching a long YouTube video or finding an article with a recipe that's buried at the bottom of a long post, and that sort of stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that replacement theory, but I do agree that those short condensed videos have been thought through with as much, if not more, effort and clarity than, or as the longer YouTube videos or longer articles. So it's just, you get right into it, to your point.
That's it.
And you can learn a lot really quickly.
Exactly. And YouTube is rewarding people, like to Dan's point. It's like, I got 1,000 something views. It's because, they're wanting Google owns YouTube, by the way. So, second biggest search engine in the world is YouTube. So it's like they're pulling some strings back there. And so they're rewarding you by doing that kind of thing, which is, trying to port that traffic over, from TikTok, Instagram Reels as well.
And it's not just a throwaway thing. You were very correct, Dan, when you say that it's more difficult to do. Mark Twain quote. I mean, he was asked, actually it was a story. He was asked to give an hour-long speech for an association. And he says, sure, I'm ready to go right now. And they said, well, actually, you just have 15 minutes. He goes, hey, now you got to wait 3 months. Because
I think the quote was, I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time.
Yes.
Or something like that.
That's the quote, but I had to give the story in there. But thank you so much for destroying my credibility. While you're at it, why don't you just give me a paper cut and pour some lemon juice in it? All right,
I'm showing off.
Okay, that was good stuff, Dan. Now listen, we always try to make the guest look better than Chris Stone. So no, this is terrific. So a new thing. So I'm 56 years old. Do all stuff on video. I play around with this. Slightly afraid of TikTok. So ease my concern or not. Tell me the TikTok story for altacacas like myself.
So TikTok is definitely a much higher frequency. It's basically the highest frequency platform that you can consume, right? These are short videos. And I would say if your concerns, it depends what your concerns are. If you're concerned, well, let me ask you, like, what's holding you back from it?
It's actually, now that I think about it, what's holding me back from it is the China connection, which is an idiotic reason, well, but that is my reason.
Yeah, that's legitimate. And that's your decision. It's like that goes back to what mediums are you most comfortable with?
Okay, so then change it. Why should I not be annoyed that my daughter does it?
Well, it's like the same reason that people got really into Facebook early on or really into Twitter early on. It's a new form of content consumption that fits the lifestyle of the person who's using it. So instead of opening up your phone and scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through Facebook, people like to scroll through TikTok because the influences that they like are there. It's in a medium of multimedia medium that they prefer to consume rather than reading or listening to podcasts or whatever. And they can consume more of that content in the same period of time as they would on other platforms. And their friends are on it, and every platform has its own demographics, right? Facebook is starting to skew towards an older age. TikTok is definitely skewed towards a younger age.
But they're all tools for marketing, each one of these. So do you have, with all your posts, what type of call to action do you put on that fits your personality?
In terms of calls to action it has to be balanced. And I'll answer this in two parts. So the first is back to Gary Vee. He's got a book I've got on my shelf here, Jab, 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 Right Hook, right? He talks about jabs being valuable content, right hooks being calls to action. So there has to be that balance. Mm-hmm. A big mistake is to just go on social media and start asking people to, buy your thing. Now, the second piece of that question is what type of call to action? And that gets into a conversation around lead generation and different, whether or not you have a funnel or an e-commerce store or a book or whatever. And the best thing that I've found is to have a call to action that's going to be a logical next step for somebody who's already familiar with you and trusts you. Not, hey, buy this $10,000 certification for the industry that you and I are in, but hey, I just released this new video or webinar, let's say, talking about this new trend in the industry. So let's say that you're in gardening, and I just released a new webinar. Now that it's spring, here are the best plants to plant. Or I'm not a gardener, so I really don't. I'm out of my depth here, but it would be a logical next step. That's not a huge jump. It's not loading them up in terms of the pain of the transaction. And by transaction, I mean something as simple as giving you their email address, right? Getting them into your system.
Yeah, but I think that's important.
That logical next step that provides you with a little bit more of a direct connection with them is the right one.
Yeah, I think that's very instructional for people to realize that that call to action doesn't mean to be frightening. Buy something. It could be follow me, subscribe. Yep. Yeah, just follow me. Join this if you're interested. Something, if you want this, fill this, this email out, what have you. It doesn't need to be a sale, but you're right. So you call it a logical next step. I like that.
Yeah.
So Dan Russell, we're going to get a little personal here, if that's okay. Sure. What's the meaning of your tattoo there that we've seen on
up here?
Anything in particular?
So it's a two-sided tattoo. On this side it says B-E. Some people think that's a mountains or something, but they're letters. And then on this side it says incomparable, and it's one of your values.
Could you hold your arm up again? There.
Right there. So
incomparable.
Had a tattoo artist put this one together several years ago. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And it was, at the time, and still is, one of my most closely held core values. I like to embrace my individuality and provide the most value I can, regardless of whether or not it's in my profession or marketing. Like I really prefer to be a truly incomparable person. And that doesn't mean it's better. That's the best part about it. It's not judgmental. It's just incomparable. Like one person who, doesn't really can't be compared to anybody else. So that's kind of like why I like to become a bit of a science nerd, because I like to know a lot of things about the universe, and I really enjoy off-roading and mountain biking. Like I have this eclectic life that I've built, and it's one of the things that really fuels me.
You ever listen to Richard Feynman?
Oh yeah. I
Is that
have his lectures on Audible. He's amazing guy.
unbelievable? Anything. He could take the slightest thing. You know why? This paperclip,
Yeah.
I mean, but talk about thinking and making your mind go. So I saw somebody jump in a pool, and I thought about the waves, and I thought to myself, how long would it take that wave to get to the end, and how many waves, and how will it disrupt going forward and going backward? And next thing you know, he has an equation for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most amazing thing.
He is or was and remains an amazing guy with an amazing mind.
You're familiar with
like one of my favorite clips of him is if you Google Richard Feynman ICE.
Mm-hmm.
It's him sitting in this little armchair being interviewed by somebody, and they ask some question, I forget what it is, and then he goes on this wild tangent talking about why ice is slippery, and then he goes into talking about rubber bands and like why they get hot when you stretch them, and like all this stuff that is totally relatable. And this was his gift, like taking examples that are totally relatable, everybody can understand what he's talking about, but then explaining how it works.
Yeah, well, he's a professor, a teacher at heart, and I think his most endearing quality is that he started his explanation where he knew you were, not where, because I can't really explain that because you have no concept of this, but let me start it over here, which is kind of magical.
This is the video.
Yes. He was once known, for those of you who don't know, he was actually, noted as the smartest man in the world, in his heyday.
He came up with a method of organizing quantum physics, and I think they're called the Feynman graph.
Yeah. Well, the Feynman, I don't know if it's the graph, but the Feynman
chart or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But really want to listen. So, Chris Dunn, if you want to get scientific-minded people excited, talk about Richard Feynman, and there you go.
And I always do. I always do. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, but that also, I think that also speaks of you in a special way, because in marketing, that's the same thing. You want to meet people where they are. The reason, I've said this before with a headline, the purpose of a headline is to get somebody to read the next line. It disqualifies as much as it qualifies. And so it disqualifies the ones that are disinterested in that. And as that physicist would say, he starts at the place where you can relate. If you don't relate, then you don't go. Right. And so when people have their marketing and they kind of want to tell their story, they want to tell what's important to them. How do you get them to switch their mind to think about how the results are important to the customer and create, a line that does that?
That's $1 million question, because everybody gets into business for many reasons, but always one of those reasons is to make money. And especially starting out, when you're not making any money or you're making very little money, the temptation is very strong to lead with your call to action and to say, hey, I have this thing, you should buy it. But that's not how that works. The dating analogy is used all the time in the marketing world of walking up to a girl at a bar and asking her to marry you, right? You don't do that. But people who post calls to action and, buy my thing right out of the gate are doing exactly that. So getting to the point where you prioritize value creation, value in advance of a transaction above the transaction itself, sometimes requires a long road of failure to sell and just running up against a brick wall and not having anybody buy from you. And eventually you get to the point where you're thinking, okay, I need to take a completely different approach. So those who have the foresight and the patience to understand their product or service in the context of the lives of the people in their audience ahead of doing any selling end up making way more progress, having way happier clients, not attracting clients or customers that they don't want, because if you're just leading with the sale, then you're going to get people that you don't want. That's a journey, really. I mean, it was for me, at least. I'm speaking from personal experience. I had to learn that by iterating and by speaking with people that were a lot smarter than me about the problems that I'm trying to solve, or the products that I'm trying to sell. So having that, as I said, foresight and patience to focus on the relationship with your audience first pays dividends in the long run.
That's
Yeah,
so
wise
magical.
Beyond his years, Dan.
I know, beyond his linear years. I was thinking about this recently. And I told this to Chris in terms of sales. If you want to be a great salesperson, first be a great person, and then you can go from there. And so, you were talking about value. If you want to get value back, in terms of compensation, give value first. And I think it works for everything. If you want respect, give respect first.
Yeah.
If you want, love, if you want all that, give respect first, or give it first. And so give value. That's a good philosophy to go in terms of marketing. Give value, even if they don't deserve it. Even if give friendship, even if they don't deserve it. Give it first, because they haven't done anything to give you that you shouldn't do it. But never go in, even Steven. Go in with the stuff first.
Over deliver. Well, one of the examples that I give when I'm teaching this concept in the marketing operating system is, if I had a cure for cancer, and I start, like, if you imagine a product that people would buy outright without question, it would probably be a cure for cancer. But even then, if I went out and I announced to the world that I had a cure for cancer, nobody would buy it. Why? Well, I'm not a doctor. I have no reputation in the industry. I don't have the trust of my audience. I don't have the backing of a pharmaceutical company. There are elements to the pitch for the cure for cancer. But and if you extrapolate that to any product, like, the trust and the reputation and the brand authority have to be even higher than you would need for the cure for cancer. So that's the baseline, right? It always has to exist. You always have to have that relationship. You have to prioritize the relationship first.
Yeah, you're right. I speak about that exact thing. I use that example in my speeches. That's remarkable. Yeah, you're a kindred spirit. Yeah, but you're right. And if you have no credibility, if you have no trust, if you don't have any of that, you can't give away $10,000. You just can't give it away.
That's right.
Nobody will take it. It can't go. That is just terrific. So, first of all, I want you to hang on before we say goodbye today. Even after we go, hang on for a little while so we can talk to you.
Sure.
But any parting words of wisdom you could help the aspiring marketer or business owner?
Yeah, I would say, when it comes to marketing, whether or not you're a first-time entrepreneur or an established marketing executive, it's always important to keep in mind that marketing is both an art and a science. And sometimes we get pulled into thinking of it more of a science, and sometimes we get pulled into thinking of it more as an art. And the people who focus on the art are the ones who get lost in the creative process and continually create content and don't end up making money. People who are on the science side are focused on making money, conversion rates, and funnels and all of that stuff, but they never create content that connects with people. So, as a parting thought, I would challenge everybody here, if you are in the position of creating content, of building a business, of growing an existing business, always keep in mind that balance. It's like yin and yang, right? Have that harmony between the art and the science, and you're going to find that things run smoother. You're more comfortable. You're not as uptight about whether or not sales are going to come in, because you're looking at the full picture.
That is just terrific. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. This has been great. Really appreciate it.
You know, I'm of the belief that all art aspires to be like music. Whereas, you know, art, you know, a mural or a sculpture, it'll make you think, you know, where I am. But music makes you feel.
Yeah.
And I think if you get your marketing just right, you're creating that emotion with somebody else. And so I think, baby, you're like music. I tell you that right now. You're as good as they get. I really appreciate you having you. Chris Stone, I mean, are you kidding me? You get better each and every time. There's just nothing. There's literally, and I've seen a lot of people. There is no one better than Chris Stone in terms of production. I mean, even our friend here will say it. Dan Russell, who was the best producer you ever met?
Chris Stone.
You see, that's how it works. It's that simple. Fun. And you've heard
this has been beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
this is like
great.
even live. He's doing it live.
That's it. And all you people out there watching this, listen, this is the man to know. Get his book and get into his world because it can only get better from there. You guys are the best. I'm the Deej. Let's go get him today, guys.
Go get him.